The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started on this this webinar of CrewSight. My name is Roy Hernandez, and I am with the Project Tools team. The Project Tools team actually helps out with support of project management solutions and field applications for Turner projects. This is why we've invited Trimble to demo their CrewSight application in order for our projects to get a better understanding of how the application works and what Trimble has to offer with this application. So if there are any questions after the demo, you can definitely direct those to the Project Tools team. The Project Tools team consists of myself, Roy Hernandez, Mary Farley, Kim Worf, Beth Coleman, Dan Gramer, and Dave Becker. Any of those Turner employees should be able to help you and provide more information if needed on the Trimble CrewSight application. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Chris Henderson. He will be going over the webinar over the Trimble CrewSight application. So I'll go ahead and hand that over to him now.
Okay, thank you very much, Roy. First off, I'd like to say thanks everybody who's attending. I know it's taking time out of your busy schedule, but I appreciate the time. My name is Chris Henderson. I'm the Director of Operations for the FTG group that has CrewSight as one of our key products. I've also been the product manager and developer since the inception of CrewSight. So I have a lot of history with this product itself. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about CrewSight, but before we get started, I thought we'd, sorry about that, talk a little bit about who Trimble is. I'll take a very short period of time here in case you haven't heard of us. Trimble got our start in positioning systems with GPS back in 1978, and we do quite a bit on the construction side for positioning and layout and those types of tools. We also have software that helps you manage your projects. Quick snapshot: we're a $3.1 billion revenue company as of 2018. So we're not a small company. We've got quite a bit going on. We have quite a bit of development effort that we do. We invest a lot of money into R&D, and we're constantly looking at new products and new solutions that we can bring to the market. Our tools, our products support every phase of the construction project, from design right through to operate. And we're going to talk a little bit about CrewSight, which is designed to help you in the construct phase. One thing I just want to note is that Trimble has a big presence in what we call the constructible process. The 3 C's: constructible, connected, and content enabled. And that provides us with the ability to share data across different aspects of a project. And you might see some new products that have come out recently, like the HoloLens, where you're able to share information and share data across different aspects of the project. So what is workforce management? So for us in the construction industry, we have a workforce that moves from site to site. Not always the same people at the same place. So it's a bit of a different challenge when you're managing a workforce. So these are the 3 key aspects of what we see as workforce management in a construction site. You've got to identify your workforce. You have to define what your site rules are and what you need, and then capture information about your workers and where they are. And we know there's a balance. These are the key things that we take into consideration when we think of workforce management. Safety is always number 1 on the list, but there's also productivity. that we can look at, and we can capture a lot of data using different technologies for different reasons and utilize that data for different things. Safety, again, is a key aspect of workforce management. And we know there's a balance. There's a balance between safety and productivity. And it's a fine balance. You have to make sure that you have a safe work site so that people can get home every day. And we've built into some features into this product, working with safety officers and safety managers to make sure that we're covering those types of things. And when I get into the demo, I'll show you what those look like. Productivity is another aspect, having visibility into who's on site, real-time information. And we can help automate some of the processes that you might have in place today. We're not trying to reinvent things. We're just trying to help make things go smoother and easier on the job site so you can focus more on what you do best. From a standpoint of onboarding, we've put in a lot of different features into the onboarding process because we know that every job site is different and your workflows need to be able to be balanced and different for each project, depending on what the needs are. But you can tailor it and you can customize it. And I'll show you some of the features that we have on how you can get workers into the system. And that includes using third-party software packages like a company called Go Contractor, where they do your orientation online before the worker even shows up on site. And we can work with them to get these people into the system so that when they show up on site, you can check their credentials and get them working right away. Communication is very big on the job site. So we have a lot of key features built into the system so that you can communicate with your workforce or get information from the system when things are happening on the site so that you know what's going on. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. I'll point those out when I get to the demo. This is my little elevator speech. So I'll let everybody take a quick gander at it, but the key thing here is that CrewSight helps with your on-site workforce management. It covers site security, safety, cost control, government compliance, all in a single secure and easy to use web portal, which is accessible from anywhere. So how does it work today? Step one is you enroll your worker, and we have multiple ways to do that. These are just some of the ways that we can do it: bulk imports, self-enroll, where we can set it up so that workers can enroll themselves using an iPad when they show up at the job. The standard go-to admin assistant, you've got an admin there and they're entering the worker in every time a worker shows up. We also have a mobile app that can be used to enroll workers. The open API is a great way to do it if you're using other software packages to share information. So enrolling is the first step. Second step is credentialing. You issue people an ID badge. That ID badge allows them access into the site and it enables the system to capture entry and exit events. And that's key to capturing information that you can use that's going to be helpful for every aspect of it: safety, compliance, productivity. Without being able to accurately capture those events, it's kind of hard to get the right data. And the benefit is you get the real-time dashboards. You know who's on site. You can get reports. You can do historical reports. You can find out information. I notice we have an estimator on the phone with us. You can go back in a project and see what kind of hours were spent in a project, so you can determine from a standpoint of trade how many workers were in this phase. You can plug in the date range and find out how many were in that trade from historical record and see what happened really on the job site. You can get alerts and notifications from the system, and then of course you can share that attendance data through the open API. I'll talk a little bit about that too. So how does our technology work? Well, we use a technology called passive UHF RFID, and that's a little bit different from your standard indoor in-building access control solution. That's called HF or NFC. And HF or NFC works a little bit differently. It's very similar to the way UHF RFID works, where an interrogator interrogates the tag and then gets a signal back. But passive is powerful because it can give you much farther range. Now these numbers are a little bit high, but it's representative of what UHF can do. These numbers are higher than what we see in the construction industry, but you can read a tag using a handheld device from 12 to 15 feet away, which can be very powerful if you've got a vehicle gate and you're trying to scan multiple workers as they're coming through the gate in a vehicle, or if you have a muster situation and you want to scan people off site very quickly. You can scan a lot of tags at a single time very quickly from a distance. And the tags have no battery, so they'll technically last forever. So one of the key features that CrewSight has is you have both the ability to see what's happening now through our dashboard and the ability to find out historical information about what happened during a period in time, so that you can go in and slice the data up. You can pull reports based on time zones, and then you can filter that data by companies and zones and trades. And then when you get the reports out in Excel, you can do further filtering and reporting. We do have some predefined reports that you can use, and I'm just going to show you a few of these because we won't have time to go into them during the demo. But our standard report gives you all the information. So when you download a standard report for a date range, say yesterday, you're going to get all of the information for yesterday. The worker's name, first name, last name, company, trade, any user-defined fields, the ID badge that the worker might have, the number of the badge, and the time they spent on site. You'll get all that information, and if you have some Excel experience, you can write scripts to pull whatever types of reports and charting that you might want to do out of that report. We do have an hours by company report that's in there as a canned report. It basically just sums up the total number of hours and the average hours worked. A daily manpower report, which you can do for a time period of up to 7 days. So you can pull out and see over the last 7 days, how many hours did each worker spend on site for each day. Time in, time out report gives you the same information. It can be up to a 7 days, but you can also get the time they scanned in for the first time in the day and the last time they scanned out, so that you get a feel for what time people are showing up. And if you need to go back and look up a specific worker, you can do that. For folks who are working in New York City, the recent LL 196 law came out that there's certain OSHA requirements and training requirements that every worker has to have, and I believe it's OSHA 30 now for every worker as of December of last year. I'm not sure if they extended that or not. But the requirement is that you have a training log that you keep at the site, and when the Department of Buildings inspector shows up, when and if, you have to be able to produce the training log, and they may pick a name out of that list and do a quick audit to make sure that you're keeping track of when people have their training and that they have the correct training. And we've built that in as a standard report that you can run. We've talked to the Department of Buildings. We use their same exact format. You don't have to keep a book. If it's stored in CrewSight and it's web accessible, you can, if the inspector shows up, you can go into CrewSight, download the report, and just hand it to them. You don't have to necessarily keep a book. So we understand that it's all about the deliverable. It's how do you get the information that you need in order to run your project? And we have multiple ways that you can get the information out of our system. We have Excel spreadsheets, SMS texts, you can get emails, you can get alerts. We do have an integration with Prolog, and we're working on one now with Project Site. We will work with third-party software providers as well. Recently, we've been approached by Procore, and we've been in discussions with them to integrate with their software as well. Not supposed to really talk about that, but it's available. So if you have a third-party supplier that of software that you think will bring value to you with CrewSight, we're open to discussion. So I'm going to jump into my live demo. So from a standpoint of CrewSight, there's an unlimited number of users, and we have multiple user roles. And depending on your user role, you will be able to log into CrewSight. And we have administrators for the different levels of CrewSight, and we have viewers for the different levels of CrewSight. And we also have what we call the company role. So if you wanted to give a user account to a subcontractor so that they could log in, they would be able to log in and view a report of all of their workers and the times that they spent on site. And they would be able to see the same thing you're seeing. So if there's a discrepancy, this worker was supposed to be there for 10 hours, they're only working 8. You can see that because they're clocking in and out through the turnstile. After 8 hours, you can share that information with a supervisor or a foreman of a subcontractor so that they can manage it and they can see how many hours people are really spending on the job site. So that said, to log into CrewSight, you would go to mercuryviz.com. You would put in your username and password. We usually provide 1 to 2 super client admins for each job site, which allows them to give out, manage, and control who has access to CrewSight for that job site. When you log into CrewSight as a client admin, which is the highest level, you have the ability to see multiple job sites within a client, which is a unique feature to our software from our competitors. And the reason we set this up is that you'll have subcontractors and a workforce in a region that you can share from job site to job site. And you'll be able to have those people available under these job sites. So at the client level, I can have, for example, a Turner, New York City client, and I could have 5 job sites underneath that. And they all would share the same resources. That doesn't mean that those resources are allowed on your job site, but it gives you access to them. So there's, of the 2 levels of CrewSight, there's the client level and then there's the job site level. What you see right now is a dashboard at the client level, and that's showing who's on site right now, right at this very minute. And this is a demo instance. So, but you'll see when you see these bars scroll, that's my browser updating because it's updating to give me live data. So I'm seeing right now that there's 121 people on the East River Hospital and 11 people on the Skyview condo tower. Those are the 2 job sites. And if I click on one of these bars, it'll give me a list of those people who are here, and I can drill down and get some information if there's a picture. There's some tabs to the left that allow you to get reports. I won't show you those here. I'll show you those at the job site level. But the reports are very similar. The job site has more reports available to it. That's why I want to show you there. But at the client level, when you run a report, you're going to get a summary of all the job sites. If you want just a single job site, you're best to go to the job site level and run a report. Otherwise, you'll have to filter out your report. Same thing with subscriptions. I will show those to you on the job site level. But again, if you subscribe to a report, a specific type of report or an alert, it would be for all your job sites at the client level. One of the key differences of the client level is the ability to set up your user-defined fields, and that's done at the client level. And that's shared throughout because you'll have the same user-defined fields for each worker. So once I get to this level now, I want to go drill down into the East River Hospital. And now I want to talk about another user role, which is a job site admin. So if you're giving out a user role to a job site admin, when they log in, they go straight to this screen for this job site. They don't see all the other job sites. They don't have access to them. So that's a job site admin has the ability to go in and do all the things I'm going to show you. We also have a client viewer and a job site viewer, and those roles allow people to log into the different levels, but they're limited to only being able to run reports. They're not able to enter workers. They're not able to move devices around, set up zones, things like that. They're only able to view the data and the information. So now I'm at the job site level and I'm looking at the job site dashboard. This is where a lot of action takes place. So I can see right now who's on site, labor by company, who's on my job site right now. That's live data. That's the dashboard. If I do have a zone set up, I can set up labor by location and see who's in what zone. So right now, everybody's in the site. Nobody's on the roof. I can see my site entrances per hour. This is just a widget that a customer asked us for, which we put in. They wanted to see when workers are showing up in the morning. An example of that would be, we're behind schedule. Need to get everybody to work 2 hours of overtime. The unions push back and they say, okay, we'll do it, but we want to start an hour early. So you'll be able to see, is everybody showing up when they said they were gonna? Do I have too many people showing up at the same time? Maybe I need to do a staggered shift if I have a really large project and limited ways to get in and out of the project. Text alerts is the next box. So text alerts, there's two text alerts. There's a text me when. I want to start with that one because it's fairly straightforward and simple. So you can say text me when a person from a specific person, anyone from a company or a trade, or when the site is empty. So if I say I want to talk to anyone from a specific company when they show up, because I got to go talk to them about something that's going on. I just want to know when they show up, or maybe a specific person I'm looking for. I want to talk to Evan. Evan Earlson when he shows up because I need to go over a change for him. So when he scans into the turnstile or gets scanned in by a handheld, you'll get a text on your phone as the user. And that's the user settings sheet here in the menu. The next feature that we have is the broadcast text. And broadcast text allows you to send to all allowed workers, which means whether they're here or not, if they're allowed on site, they'll get the text. All on-site workers, maybe I don't care about the people who are not currently on site. I just want to send it out to the workers who are here. A specific company or trade, an individual, or based on a user-defined field. So say I wanted to send it out to all superintendents that I have in a user-defined field. I can send it to that. And the broadcast text, it's kind of like a tweet. You know, I pick the primary work location, construction area, and then put in my content. It's got 140 characters. It will start with the name of the job site so that the user knows when they get the text where it's coming from.
Hey, Chris, if we can stop there for a second, what I want to do is just check and see whether or not anyone has any questions right now. Well, this is something we forgot to mention. If you did have something that you wanted to talk about, you could always use the raise hand feature on the application, the webinar application, and then, you know, or you could type it in the chat or questions. We did have one question that I just wanted to run by you real quick. Chris, are there any projects right now at Turner using the CrewSight application?
Yes, there are. Okay. There are two projects that I'm aware of, and they're both Facebook projects, Facebook data centers.
Okay.
That's all I can think of at the moment. I know we did do one project for a hospital in Nashville, a children's hospital, where they used our system. That's all I can think of offhand. But there is one site in New Albany. Actually, that site in New Albany, we did a pilot for this weather build alerts that I'm going to get to in these widgets here. So some of the other features that we have in the manual zone entry is basically just your ability to normalize the data, right? Somebody goes in the turnstile, the end of the day, they sneak out through the vehicle gate when nobody's around because it's easier to get to their car. The next day you go to run a report, they've got 0 hours in the system. And the reason they have 0 hours is because they entered but never exited. The system doesn't know how long they were there unless you've got the auto exit duration set. And even then you can see, hey, they auto exited. Why didn't they use the turnstile? So you can go in and normalize that. You can call them up and say, hey, what happened? Oh, I went out the vehicle gate because I was carrying a big pole. I couldn't get through the turnstile. Okay, well, you can go in and say, what time did they leave? And you could find that person and then set them off site at that time. Then when you run your report again, you're going to get real data. Little caution on that. When you do these manual entries, the system records it with the user name that put that event in. So you can't try to game the system. It's going to show when somebody's putting these in, and it stays in there historically. Allowed workers per zone. This is something that we're doing on the Facebook sites, which provides the ability for them to limit the number of workers that go into a certain area. And you can manage who's allowed and who's not. And typically they're very high secure areas, and they'll have a guard at the door with a handheld, and they'll scan people's cards to make sure they're allowed before letting them through the door. We've also used this at casinos, where once they get to a certain point in the casino construction, the gaming rooms, they start bringing the games in, and then they're really highly securely controlled. So you have that capability here. These two widgets
Chris,
that you see. Yep.
Chris, sorry, this is Eddie Barry, and one of my roles of responsibility with Turner is developing a mass notification or automated notification application, and we're in the early stages of identifying what we're going to use. And what I really like about what you mentioned previously was the ability to contact certain employees on a job site. And I'm just wondering, is there a method whereby we could use one of the applications, whether it be a broadcast text or something along those lines, if, for example, we had an active shooter situation on a job site?
So yes, so you can do that by logging into the dashboard and then selecting all on-site workers, and then you can type in active shooter alert, whatever, maybe you can have some pre-canned data that you want to put in there, and then you can send it out. So that's the manual way to do it. But let me tell you a little bit about the weather build, because I think this might be closer to
definitely.
the direction.
Hurricanes, blizzards, heat, all that kind of stuff. I'm interested in seeing that as well.
Well, what I want to talk about is the workflow, right? So the workflow of getting a message out, which, sitting down at the web browser and typing in the information and sending it out, that's great. That's automated. I mean, you're collecting information about the workers, but it doesn't always work very well in situations of an emergency. And so here's why I'm mentioning it. With Weather Build, when we did this pilot at the Facebook site in New Albany, they didn't want us to automate sending alerts from Weather Build. So what this Weather Build integration does, and if you're not familiar with Weather Build, we can always set you up with a demo on that. But what Weather Build does is it's hypersensitive to your location, and you can set it up to get alerts based on your own requirements, like lightning within a certain distance, temperatures of such, and it also ties into your project schedule. So you can load your project schedule into WeatherBuild, and then it looks for keywords like concrete, setting up steel work with crane setups, things like that. And it knows that if you're going to be doing certain things on certain days and there's going to be a weather impact that's going to impact that, you can get alerts based on that.
Okay.
So it can keep you in advance of the week. What kind of weather impacts am I going to have? And then of course at the end of the week, when you have that whole issue where you've lost a day for something, you've got to put that whole report back and go back to your owner and say, hey, look what happened, right? So you can get a lot of that stuff right at your fingertips without doing a lot of work. So what we did was we said, well, what could we bring to the table with WeatherBuild in addition to just having these widgets on the dashboard? Well, we can do broadcast texting. So we didn't want to do, or the end customer, I should say, Turner, didn't want to do, well, if an alert comes up for high winds, we don't want to just send that alert right out to all the workers. We want to put somebody in the middle. So what we ended up setting up is that if a high wind alert comes out, it gets sent to 2 or 3 key people on the safety team. They would evaluate the situation, and if they felt that it was important, in the text alert that they get from WeatherBuild, they can press a button and it would respond back to WeatherBuild to send the alert out.
Okay.
So it puts somebody in the middle, and you can do the same thing with an active shooter alert. If you have a third-party software or something that you're developing, you can either go in here and type it in and send it out, or you can have a third party, another software that you press a button on, and then it can integrate with our software and send the message out. We're open to doing it either way, whatever works for your workflow.
And last question along those lines, is there any part of your application where you can bring in, like, let's say the alert goes out to people who are key decision makers on the job site? Is there a method to bring those 6 individuals into a conference call, basically a conference bridge, where they can start discussing the issue at hand, other than just getting text alerts?
We don't have a two-way communication.
Okay, that's fine.
Through this browser, yeah.
Okay, understood.
Yep, it's more of just an alert.
Perfect.
Alert function.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Okay, so actually that was great. That was a great lead in. Thank you, Eddie. That was a great lead into my WeatherBuild integration here. So anyway, this is the dashboard. This is live, what's happening today. You'll see there's a few widgets on the side here that also tell you what's going on with your sensors and your workers who are on site versus who's allowed. I'm going to kind of skip over the site map because that's really a placeholder. It does do some cool stuff where you can pull in a flat file and set zones up and see where workers are, but this is more of a placeholder for the future for us. So we'll go right to the workforce. So in the workforce section, this is where your workers show up. So whether they're coming in through the self-registration, you're bulk uploading them, you can bulk upload, you can download an Excel sheet with all of your user-defined fields, and you can email that to your subs, and they can send it back, and you can upload people. And when you do that, they'll show up in the system with no, no badge, and they're not allowed. So once they're in the system now, they show up, they've gone through their orientation, they've got everything they need. You can actually click on that worker's record, and you can take their photo, upload their photo, download and print their badge. And you print the badge, send it to the printer. When the badge comes out of the printer, you can go to badging and permissions. You can assign that badge to that worker. You can assign a worker multiple badges. You can assign a worker temporary badges. So I can disable this badge if they lost it or they misplaced it. I can disable this one, give them a temporary one that they can use. And as they enter and exit through the site with that temporary badge, it's going to put all those events against this worker's name. And then when they find their old badge, they come back and I can just take the temporary badge back and turn on their old badge. I can set access permission based on zone. Some of the access permissions we have built into the system. By company, you can set up an insurance expiration date for a subcontractor. So if their insurance expires on a certain date, all the badges for everybody associated with that company would just turn off on that date. So they're no longer allowed on site. The other thing that we have in the system that you can set up by job site is if I haven't seen a worker after a certain period of time, I'm just going to turn off their badge. So the assumption is they're done. If they come back for another phase later in the project, I can always turn their badge back on. Again, we're taking what you do on a regular basis, trying to automate it, make it simple, make it easier. So that's a worker. And in the workforce tab, you're able to view and edit up to 1,000 workers at a time. So if you had to make changes, you can do that quickly and easily right from this page. And you can search by company, by trade, by a custom field. Say I want to find out everybody from Becker Technical, and I'm going to change their access permissions because they're no longer going to be allowed in a certain zone. I have 15 entries for Becker Technical. I can click on this box here. I can go in and update, and I can turn off their permissions to a specific zone, or I can make certain changes to certain fields. Say they all went through a safety certification training. I want to go in and change that date. I can do that for multiple workers at a time. So that's the workforce tab. One of the cool things I like about this tab, and I don't know if I'm going to see any data on it or not, is this little clock button here. So if I click the little clock button, it will show me which companies I've worked for. So if I'm a union worker and I'm moving around from sub to sub because my skills, and I'm working in a union shop, and I may be doing maybe a plumber that's doing the fire extinguisher system on one job, and I'm doing the drainage on another subcontractor. You can keep track. You can keep that same worker, but you can associate them with different companies throughout the phases of the project and be able to see the history. Same thing with badge history. This guy, Chris Henderson, loses his badge all the time. So I can see how many badges have been assigned to this person and the dates that they've been assigned. Attendance history. I just want to find out when have they been entering and exiting the site. So I can put in a date range and I can get all of their get all of the events from that date range. I don't think there's going to be too many in here. Yeah. So January 13th, entered the site at 6:02 a.m. Was auto exited to offsite after however many hours that is. I think it's 8 or 10 hours. So you can drill down by a worker and get some event history based on that worker. Any questions so far? One of the things that is cool about our system is it's self-serve. So any user rather, job site administrator or client administrator has the ability to go in and get this information when they want to, on demand. It's available to you at any time during the course of the project, and it's there from the beginning to the end.
Hey, Chris, you mentioned that record that we just saw, it was auto exited. Was that after a while, does it just, if it doesn't read a badge, does it end up just automatically removing them as if they've moved from the site after a certain amount of hours?
You can set that. So that's a settable feature. You can turn it off or you can turn it on. And it provides you with the ability to just make sure workers are being set off the site after a certain hour. We can't set it so that everybody gets thrown off the site at 10 o'clock at night, but at 10 o'clock at night, the site should be empty. But what you can do is you can set, if the worker entered the site and never shown leaving the site, I can auto exit them after a certain period of time. And that's settable. And you can also set that by zone.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yep.
Yep. So it's configurable. And we got this idea from one of our customers, which is kind of cool. We set up a zone. You can set up a zone in the system page under the job site, and the zone safety meeting. So I know safety guys probably know how hard it is to keep attendance, right? So you're passing around a clipboard, people are signing it, other people are just passing it to the next person and not even, putting their name on the card. So here's an easy way to do it. They set up a zone called safety meeting. And then now when people show up in the meeting, you can take out a handheld device and you can just scan everybody's badge. Everybody hold your badge up, scan them all in. Now you've got attendance at that meeting, and that could auto exit from that zone back onto the site after 15 minutes or half an hour, however you want to say it. And now if I go back into my reports page, which I didn't get to yet, but now if I want to run a report and I want to say, oh, who was here on this date, right? So I'm going to do a custom date. And I'm going to go in and do a custom date. And I'm going to say, who was here on the 11th? I get a report. And if I had a safety meeting that day, the zone would say safety meeting here, and it would show a number. And I could just click on that number, and I'll do it with the roof right now because I don't have a safety meeting. And when I click on that, I'm filtering just by roof. So here's the 8 people who were on the roof, or maybe in the safety meeting. And now, as you can see, these downloadable reports are filtered. So I can download that report in Excel, and now I have an Excel report of everybody who attended that safety meeting. And I don't even need it. And the reason I don't need it is because all I need to do is keep track of the dates I had my safety meetings and what they were about. And I can just go into CrewSight anytime I want and get a list of who was at that training. It's always there from the beginning of the project right to the end. It's always available to you. So this is the reports page. I can filter by zone. I can filter by company. I can run a report for the last 7 days. One thing I will point out is these 0 hours. This is my simulator. We put a lot of effort into developing our software, but not so much the simulator. So the simulator doesn't really work as well as we'd like it to. So when you see 0 hours, it's typically because that particular worker in the simulator got overlooked. But here's a typical workflow. And if I click on that worker now, I'm seeing Rachel's entry and exit events for that time period. I can see what, when she started. She wasn't even here on the 20th or the 22nd or the 23rd. The simulator, by the way, works over weekends. So, but you'll be able to see that and graph that out. You can download the standard report. This is the one that I told you about. It gives you everything. So it's going to give me all the information from the database, every user defined field. So if I want to run a report for that time frame and I want to see from an ethnicity standpoint, if I'm capturing that information, if I want to run a report to say, okay, how many workers were here during that time frame? How many hours did they put in? You can do it by hours. You can create a report that gives you the percentages by hour, by ethnicity for a time period, using hours or number of workers. So you can do anything you want with that type of data. The advanced reports or the canned reports, I showed you a few. These are what they look like. Daily manpower, time in, time out. And then we're always open to customers coming back and saying, hey, we need a report that looks like this. Give us a sample of it. It's not that hard to create. It's just hard for us to create every type of report that somebody might want. So we just kind of leave it open. We wait for customers to come and say, hey, can you create this report for us? Most of them are happy with the canned reports that we have in here. So, or getting their own, filtering. Any questions about reports? Okay, subscriptions. How am I doing on time? Doing okay, good. So subscriptions, you can subscribe to reports or alerts. An alert is something that's going to come to you immediately, either through an email or through a text. And an example of an alert is when somebody enters an area that they're not supposed to be in. Another example of an alert is when a device goes offline, like a turnstile goes down. You want to know about that right away, you'll get an alert on your phone. So anybody that's in IT that has to make sure these things are up and running can get an alert to know that something went down and address it.
Sorry, Chris, and with regards to those alerts going off, those are based on the GPS location of the badge?
No, the system doesn't use GPS because the cards are just UHF, they're passive UHF cards.
Okay.
So GPS would be really expensive to give everybody a GPS locator, but
Yep.
And also they don't work indoors. But the way an alert would work is if you had an area that you were monitoring and somebody tried to go into that area and they weren't supposed to be in there, you could get an alert if they tried to get in.
Okay.
Somebody's trying to get in this area.
Gotcha.
We are working on a Bluetooth solution, and we do have the ability to put Bluetooth beacons on workers on a job site and put sensors around the job site. But it's not something I wanted to talk about in this meeting.
No, understood.
Focus on
Understood.
the basics.
Yep.
But that's one thing, right? If you set up a zone with a beacon and a worker enters that zone, nothing's keeping them out, but you're getting an alert that they're there and they're not supposed to be. So the alerts are basically if I go into settings here, you'll see the users. This is my user information as a user. So if you were given information, if you were given a user role rather, you would be able to put in your own phone number here, your own email address, and then you would get alerts and reports based on those two. So that's where they would go. So when you're subscribing to a report, an attendance information report, and I'll just give you a quick glimpse of how to do this. This is real easy to do. So if I want to subscribe to an LL196 report, I can select the frequency. I can do it daily, weekly, or monthly. Daily's not showing up here because I'm already subscribed to the daily report. And then I can set the parameters. And I can also, if I decide, oh, I want to send it to, I'm going to pick on you, Eddie. I'm going to send it to Eddie Barry. So I could put his email address in here, and he doesn't even have to be a user, but yet he can get that report on a daily basis until he yells at me, stop sending me these reports, and then I'll just go in and turn it off. So those are some cool features with reports and alerts. From the system side, you can set up zones. You can monitor and manage your devices. We do have a CrewSight mobile app, and I'm going to show you. I can't do a demo on that because it's kind of hard to do, but I will show you what some of the screens look like. But you'll see in here BYOD device. That's a bring your own device. So each user, when you give a user account out, you can say, do I want this person to have access to the mobile app? And only admins can view the mobile app. And if the answer is yes, you would check that box when you were giving out a user account. And then it would create this BYOD device in the background, and you could configure that. A lot of this is done by our support team. So when you get set up, we'll show you how to do it. But if you have trouble with it or you don't want to deal with it, just call up support and say, hey, I need this to do this, and we'll work it and get it done for you. From companies, we try to set up companies and trades as drop-down lists so that you're not getting too many different ones. This is where you would manage that. You can download an Excel list. You can delete. We're adding the feature so that you can delete multiples at a time. But for now, it's one at a time. Same thing with trades. And the title is part of the LL 196. So that has a significant, specific titles that New York City is looking for. But you can manage that. And under companies, you can, this is where you can manage, well, it's not letting me do it because I'm at the job site level, but at the client level, I can manage the expiration date for their insurance. So that's pretty much the web interface. I don't want to go into too much detail here. There's a lot of things you can do. It's all pretty much self-serve. That's the web user interface. We do provide an enrollment station that includes photo capture software, a small desk tripod with an HD web camera, and the printer and the ink so that you can print the badges. It makes it very simple setup. So a worker sits in a chair, the box shows up on their face, you press a button, you got their picture. It makes it very simple and fast. So the next thing I'll just go over real quick. Any questions so far? Okay, is the self-registration utility. And there's usually a small fee to set this up in the beginning of the project if it's something that you want to utilize. It's not a recurring fee, it's just a small fee to get it set up and configured. But it allows you the ability to log in an iPad or a tablet and hand it to the worker, and the worker can enroll themselves. And this includes taking their photo. So they create a new record, they can go in, they can click on the worker photo here. It'll automatically go into the device and say, open up the camera so that you can take the worker's picture. They can put their name in. They can scroll through, add the information that they need to add. They can even sign a document. So if you wanted us to configure a safe practice agreement for them to sign, they can go in, click to review the document, put their initials in. This one's 2 pages. They can initial it, save it and close it. Click yes, move to the next thing. Drop down fields. I didn't even really talk about the UDFs. The UDFs can be anything from a drop down list with multiple selectors or a single selector, yes, no questions, dates, phone numbers. When you configure them up front, you can configure them so that you can't put a phone number in a date field. Do you have any medical conditions that might be important in an emergency? Yes, then they can type that in. That can be visible in the mobile app. And I'll talk a little bit when I get to the mobile app about some experiences we've had with our mobile app. OSHA card, that's a mandatory field, so I'm going to click yes. And then the final review pages where the worker can review that and sign. And then you would put your PIN in as an admin, if you've signed in, you can put your PIN in here, and then that would push this record into CrewSight. Now the worker doesn't have a badge yet, but their record is now in CrewSight. Now I can go in, find their record, take their picture, and issue them a badge. And all of these documents that they signed now become PDFs in the database that you can download and print with their initials and signatures. Basically a paperless orientation. Any questions about this? Okay. So the next thing I'll talk about then is the mobile app. So the mobile app is really the power of CrewSight in the palm of your hand. You can do pretty much anything that you can do in the web app. I'd say not everything, but maybe 90%. You can't assign devices and things like that and set up zones, but you can do quite a bit. You can work up emergency contact info and information for workers in the event of an emergency. So it's nice to have that out in the field with you. One of our customers, we asked what they liked so much about CrewSight, and one of them said, well, I love that mobile app. I had to have a crew come in on Sunday. They needed 4 guys to come in and work on something for me. And the site's 45 minutes away. So Sunday morning, they said they were going to be there at 7 a.m. I got up Sunday morning at 7:30. I rolled over, picked up my phone, opened up the mobile app, and I saw 4 workers were there. I clicked on that in the mobile app. The names came up. I knew they were there. I knew they were working. I rolled over and went back to sleep. So that was one of the things he loved about it, was being able to have that information in the palm of his hands and save him time. He didn't have to rush to the site. He could see what was going on from home. Another thing that happened was a worker had fallen off the 2nd story and was unconscious, and they needed access to their emergency contact info and any emergency medical information. That was available to him in the mobile app in the palm of his hand. He didn't have to run into the trailer and dig through a file cabinet and try to find that information or call somebody up to look it up somewhere. It was right there available to him. These are just what some of the screens look like, since I'm not able to show it to you live, but you get the login screen. If you are a client admin, it will ask you which job site, and then it will download all the information on that job site. If you are a job site administrator, it will take you right to this dashboard. Very similar dashboard. This is who's here right now, the workers who are here now. If I want to go in and look somebody up in the workforce, I can do that. If I want, I can take attendance. If I'm using a device that can plug into my phone that can read RFID badges, and we sell that, it can actually read the cards up to 20 feet away. It's pretty good range on it. I can use that to take attendance at a meeting or scan people off site in an emergency muster situation very quickly. And as I refresh attendance data, this number will go down. So if I have my phone and I'm scanning everybody off the site in the muster area, I could be standing with the emergency services people and keep clicking refresh attendance data. And then this number from 116 might drop to 4. And then I got a list of the 4 workers who are unaccounted for. So now I can quickly find out where they are. I can drill down into their worker record. I can get to their phone number. I can press their phone number and I call them up and see, did they make it off the site okay? If you're tracking zones, if you know a zone that somebody was working or an area that they were working in, you can see the last area that they were seen, and you can report that information to the emergency services. You can get reports. You can export them, and when you hit export, it will open up your email and it will attach an Excel and send it for you. So you can quickly take attendance, send it to your accounting department. This is the workforce page. Please feel free to stop me if anybody has any questions. You can do broadcast text from here. You can see the worker detail information. You can change people's access permissions. Yeah, actually, one of the things I wanted to point out too is you can use UHF RFID, but you can also do a manual event. So if you want to say this person's entering the site, you can search their name and manually enter them onto the site at that time. Or you can use the barcode on the back of the badge. That's what the QR scan is. So it will automatically open up the camera. You scan the back of the person's badge and you can enter them onto the site using that if you don't have an RFID. Same thing can be done in an emergency muster. It just takes a little longer because now you got to do that for each one. So what is CrewSight? Well, the CrewSight's main components are the software as a service, which is by job site. So you would purchase a subscription for a job site, a monthly subscription or an annual subscription. It's typically 12 months minimum, but we've been relaxing that a little bit because for smaller projects as needed. But you would pay a single fee per month to access CrewSight for your job site. We'll set it up for you. And then you get unlimited users, there's different roles. We've recently added a company registrar role, which allows you to give a user account to your subcontractor so that they can use the CrewSight self-registration on an iPad at their own office, and their workers can fill out all their information right in their own office, and then when they show up on site, it's already in there. And that user role doesn't give them access to anything else. So you don't have to worry about them seeing data that they're not supposed to see. So it's unlimited users, unlimited workers, unlimited user-defined fields, unlimited devices, unlimited zones. It's just that monthly fee for the project. Then there's the consumables, which are the ID badges, maybe some printer ink, and then the devices themselves and the enrollment station kit. And those devices you can see here, this is the Grocker device that you can plug into your phone that can read the RFID cards using any cell phone through the audio port. And then we have our Nomad 5 handheld device that you can also use. It's got an RFID reader and power module, and you can use that to scan cards. You can give that to a guard. It's a rugged device, can be out in the rain, could be out in the snow. It's a rugged device that can handle the environment. And you give that to a guard, and the guard can use it at the gate to scan people in and out, or inside the building if need be. And then of course the turnstiles, which we have all different types of form factors. We work with MSSI to provide different types of turnstiles. The smaller ones are our crew lanes that can fit in smaller, in more urban environments where you don't have a large footprint, but you still need to have that ability to control access, right up to 4, 5, 6 lane turnstile containers with a guard office. We can do it from bottom to top. And I think that covers it.
Okay, Chris, I only have one question. You mentioned, I guess, I don't know if you can go into exact detail on what the cost would be. And then I thought I might have misunderstood you, but I thought you said with the registration, it includes devices automatically, like turnstiles, like the readers, like, you know,
Well,
the other hardware?
So you would buy, so when you're buying CrewSight components, these are the 3 things you buy.
That you buy, okay.
Right, you buy the software as a service, that's a set fee per month. Then you buy the ID badges as consumables, however many you need, right, as you go. And then you would buy whatever access control devices and scanning devices. What's nice about our solution is that the badges can be reused on other projects in the same client. So for example, if you're, like I mentioned before, if you have a Turner client in New York City and you have, say, 4 or 5 projects underneath that, if that worker now goes to one of the other projects and they're already in the database, you can turn their access permissions on and off by job site.
Okay.
And capture their entry and exit events. So now you're not issuing, you know, Bill from Joe's Plumbing 5 different badges because he's working on 5 different projects. You just issue him 1 badge and he can use it on each of the different projects. He may show up on one project where he's not allowed, but he goes into the office and says, well, I should be in your database. I got this badge. And then you just look him up and then turn on his access to the new job site. Same thing with devices. So, and devices are even easier because they don't have to be in the same client. You can actually take a turnstile from Chicago and ship it to New York and just tell us, hey, I'm moving this turnstile to this job site in New York, and we'll just reconfigure it for you as part of the support service. And then we'll set it up on the new job site. So you buy this turnstile once, and when you're done using it on this job, you move it to the next job. So you don't have that cost of the turnstile now anymore. on the new job. All you're really paying for is the software as a service, and then any badges or printing supplies that you might need.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. I don't see any other questions at this time, so I think this kind of finishes our webinar here. I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining this. And again, if you have any questions at all, if you need more information or you have specific questions you don't want to mention now, you can definitely reach out to the Project Tools team. My name is Roy Hernandez. You can definitely reach out to me, and then you know, I can gather information if needed and provide you anything that you might need. But again, I just want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you, Chris, for your presentation, and Hannah, thank you too for being here, and appreciate everything that y'all did for us.
Okay, thank you, Roy. And Roy, if you have anybody that has any specific needs for a specific project and you wanted to get a quote for that project, even as a comparison, you can just get in touch with Scott Burston.
Yes, that'll work.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chris. All right.